someone order fun?
God, Miranda, those are, wow, gosh, those are very pink.
Her favorite color.
Oh, where do you want the karaoke machine? Aunt Carrie.
Is not here an option?
Hello, lovers. Welcome back to And Just Like That, The Writer's Room, the official companion podcast of And Just Like That from Max. I'm Michael Patrick King, writer, director, and executive producer of And Just Like That. And I'm here today with executive producer and writer Julie Rottenberg.
Hi.
And executive producer and writer Elisa Zuritsky.
Hello.
And co-executive producer and writer Samantha Irby.
Hello.
As well as executive story editor and writer Lucas Froehlich.
Hey, hey.
Hi, everybody. Well, today we're here to discuss Episode 7, written by Lucas and directed by Anu Valia. And the name of this episode is They Want to Have Fun. And if you want to have fun, please go watch the episode before you listen to us talking about it on the podcast, because that will be fun. Now, before we start, Lucas, I want you to tell us about the title, They Want to Have Fun, as compared to Girls Just Want to Have Fun. What's the editorial choice you made?
Well, I mean, it is also a lyric from the song, and it's like the very end lyric where they want to have fun. And it just kind of, felt more to me a little bit more fresh than Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And also just, it emphasizes the theme of everybody trying like so hard for certain aspects of like trying to make, force fun for Miranda and trying to put a good face on Charlotte to like make this birthday certain thing, and Harry trying to make it a perfect birthday for her. So it's like, it's the idea that everybody's like, attempting to make everything nice when it's actually a little bit chaotic. Carrie the same with her situation. And then, yeah.
So this is a very big episode for us because it has every single person in it in one scene pretty much. But the first thought of the impulse of this episode came from something Lucas pitched at some point, that Miranda had a party at Carrie's Gramercy apartment when she wasn't there. That was a pitch that maybe Miranda was going to be a bad roommate and have a party at
when
Carrie's.
she was house sitting.
And then Carrie would see
sitting.
all this liquor being delivered and not know what it's for, and did Miranda slip and all this. But the idea of Miranda having a party at Carrie's apartment became Carrie and Miranda throw a party for Charlotte's birthday. Now, we've done some birthdays before. We did the very notorious Carrie's 35th birthday, where everybody doesn't show up and she drops the birthday cake in the street.
The first episode of season 4. We did a birthday of Charlotte in Atlantic City, believe it or not.
God,
when she was sort of not.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
she didn't want to be an old maid.
She didn't want to be an old maid.
Yes,
and she was turning older.
It was sort of an unbirthday.
Before we get to the actual thrust of the birthday party, we do start with picking up a thread that we started in the last episode, which is Carrie and Duncan exchanging chapters of their book. And Carrie knocks on Duncan's door to tell him that she's read his chapter. It's the beginning of their communication back and forth as two writers.
I just want to say to anyone listening who doesn't fully understand how incredibly scary it is to share something you've written, how vulnerable you are suddenly when you share something. And it's, especially if it's someone you respect, and I think clearly Carrie does, and the nakedness you feel when someone else is reading something you've written.
I don't even know if it's someone that you respect, because it's someone you're going to have to see. Let's just start there. If they're bad and you're going to have to see them again, you know what I mean?
Kind of nice because writing's such like a solitary thing, right? But then there is this thing, which I don't know if people know, but it's like you have to kind of be sharing your writing with other people because you need that feedback. It's a constant thing, and it creates this like kind of beautiful, special relationship you develop with certain people in your life that are your readers. And so it just takes this next door neighbor dynamic and really like puts it on a fast drive, right? Where they're suddenly vulnerable and opening up in a way that, you know, wouldn't be necessarily if they were just neighbors.
Yeah, and that they've both admitted to each other they don't do with anyone else. It's like the most intimate kind of
it's like
sharing.
standing there naked with no sex in broad daylight.
Exactly.
To show this relationship that we specifically didn't want just to turn into a flirty thing. It's like, this is different. They are actually, this is about the work.
Yeah, and in some ways, this is like the most writerly version of Carrie we've ever met, because Carrie with her editors is one little glimpse of her as a writer. Carrie on a book tour is another, but we don't really spend too much time there. She never talks
about writing.
Yeah, and so like this is probably like the realest
the process, showing the process.
Right, and it's also treacherous to talk about writing on TV when you're writers and writing it. But the thing that's thrilling about this is she thinks he's good. She thinks the book is wonderful. So that's off the table that she would have to do the comedy of, oh, you're not really good. Yeah. It's just that you're really good. And she hands him her book, which we're saying is the most treacherous thing you can do. She hands him her chapter.
Just the first chapter.
Just the first chapter, which she says, I'm terrified. And you cut right into Lucas's cut of Lily screaming bloody murder because she feels betrayed.
By the way, this is a perfect example of something that was pitched in the writer's room, put into effect, and the next time I did a loop around the park with a friend, she was talking about her daughter who had just been broken up with and had, quote unquote, taken to her bed, a teenager. And like, it was okay. That's real.
And also, since this is the writing room, I can say technically there is a phrase. Writers can kind of coach editors and directors into what they want it to be. And there is a phrase that says smash cut to. And that tells you you're going directly into almost a comic element. Like this is in direct response to the last line in the other scene, which was, I'm terrified. Smash cut to Lily screaming. And it's a way of us telling them, here's the intention. Here's the intention, because sometimes writing is very open to interpretation, and sometimes it has to be direct. So this is smash cut to. We go and we find out, as Julie was just saying, that Lily has been broken up with by her sexually polyamorous boyfriend.
How did we not see this coming?
Yeah, I was shocked.
You know who saw it coming? Mr. Burton on the floor. When he looks up at Charlotte, his whole subtext is, as if I didn't know this was coming.
He's seen it all.
It's like the comedy of this, it's so melodramatic, and throughout it, it's like Lily's this maiden mourning throughout, but it's like it does bring up the fact that like heartbreak is horrible at any point, and so it's like this, how legitimate is her heartbreak, and taking her seriously, but also kicking her out of bed at certain points. So it's kind of a fun, when does your heartbreak become legitimate, and when do your like romantic troubles become legitimate? And is Carrie's romantic relationship, is it certain things juvenile or about it is mature?
And we discovered that the three, Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte, are sitting at the table discussing the Bronte sisters-ness of a high school breakup and how rough it is for someone. And the door opens up, and here comes somebody else in the throng of a new relationship, is Anthony, who's very nervous because his love, Giuseppe's mother, is coming from Europe.
This was another early on impulse you had when we were breaking the whole season, was Giuseppe's mother was going to come. She was allegedly Italian, but actually born in Buffalo.
But we really had to, again, spend a lot of time. We knew it wasn't going to go well, but then what is that going to look like? You have to actually write lines on pages to actually create a character. So we have to figure it out. And we've also done a lot of, we brought a number of mothers onto the show.
True.
We've had Bunny for Charlotte. We've had Steve's mom. We have Herbert's mom now, who makes appearances. And they're all their own kind of villains. So this was a chance to find another version of a mom who can set you off your balance.
And only to the effect of causing growth in Anthony and Giuseppe's relationship or comic problems. And because we have Mario Cantone, we know we're going to have a fun time with him and whoever's mom walks through that door. But before the mother does walk through the door, Charlotte admits to Carrie, forgetting that Miranda's at the table, about Lily being so upset. She said, I can't have a nervous breakdown from my easy one. I have too much else on my plate. And Miranda says, what else is on your plate? And then Carrie
has the information.
Carrie has the information that only she has, that Harry has got prostate cancer and she's not allowed to tell anyone.
The fault.
And Charlotte looks at her, and suddenly Carrie starts babbling about
that
this
wasn't
ring.
Written, right?
No, it's because we have to vamp for the mother to come in.
Right, but I thought that was such a great...
let me tell you about this ring I just got.
I don't think that was in the script. It was,
no,
she
it was
did
just on
it
the
was
day.
really,
Yeah.
it was perfect.
Let me just tell you about this ring I just got. And the door opens up, and in walks Gianna Amato, played by Patti Lupone.
The one and only.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And
what
by
a
the way,
vision.
she was the only,
Only
she
choice.
was who we had in mind, who Michael had in mind from day one.
No, we called her up before it was word one was even typed, and we said, Patti, we would love you to do this part. She's an Italian Freudian therapist. She lives in Rome. Her name's Gianna, but the reason it's Gianna is because we wanted to also split it because she's also born in Buffalo, New York, and that's Gia. So there's Gianna from Rome and Gia from Buffalo, and the last name is Amato, which means beloved. And we thought that's how she feels about her husband and her son.
Yeah.
And I love right off the bat when she mistakes this other big hot beefcake of a guy for Anthony. You see, it's not going to be like, oh, she doesn't like that he's gay. It's like she gives him such a warm, you must be
She
Anthony.
actually flirts with him. She says, I'm Gia. Like, what? and he introduces her as Dottoressa Gianna Amato, and she says to the girls, call me Gia. And then that cute guy comes up, and she's like, hi, I'm Gia. And then Anthony comes up hidden behind a wall of flowers.
The idea of feeling paranoid in front of a therapist, I just want to talk about that for a moment. This was a while ago. It was a friend's mother was a therapist, and I was very self-conscious. And at a certain point, I just didn't want to say much. And she said, we hear your silence. I was like,
no, I would have gotten up and left the room.
I would have run through the door like a cartoon,
and that's
with just an outline.
The Kool-Aid man.
And that's the kind of that's the kind of villain that felt fresh to us.
And that's what Anthony is, the one person who doesn't want to pull things apart. He even says before she enters, I had a therapist. He had all sorts of insights. Talk about your love affair for Anthony, Samantha.
Anthony, to me, first of all, he has never delivered a line that was not absolutely perfect in the funniest way with the funniest inflection. There's a lot of Anthony that I relate to directly. I love to make a quip and then just walk away and leave people scandalized by whatever.
You do have an inner Anthony.
Said. But I do appreciate anyone who is skeptical of therapy. I say as a person who is in regular
I was going to say
therapy.
Meanwhile.
Yeah. But the skepticism you like.
I love that we get to see this side of him that is not sure of himself, often with the wisecracker of the group. There can be some hidden pain or fear, and I love that we get to see that from Anthony, not just Mr. Confident, Mr. making fun of everyone, but Mr. like, I wear bronzer to try to make my boyfriend.
Yeah, she says, I just had a moment to slap on some bronzer. But really, Anthony is like a buzzsaw. And he just goes right through everybody. And it's like Gianna is a piece of petrified wood. He starts to go, and it's just rock.
And he's so vulnerable there.
Yeah.
He can't get through.
It's like he's not, a person that is like kind of set in his ways in sort of life in a good way, or you get to a certain point, you're just like, I am who I am. And with Giuseppe, he actually doesn't seem to change that much. They're getting along copacetically. But then the part about relationships is, whether it's family or work or something like that, there is these outside factors that can have a big effect on your actual, what is already working. And so even though they're copacetic, it suddenly puts this whole strain on Anthony and it's fun to see him as suddenly self-aware, or kind of like his jokes aren't working.
Even though she's floating above in a very elegant way, she makes it quite clear that he should not call her Gia like he told the others.
I mean, it is hate at first sight.
She size shames him. So we actually have her pulling out a very, like one of those, like in the Three Musketeers when they're in Venice and somebody pulls out a very sharp knife and stabs someone and puts it in their doublet and walks away and you don't know who the assassin was. She's quite a precise assassin. Stealth. Boom. Yeah. But Charlotte picks it up. Charlotte actually goes, oh, what did she just say? But it's what you would say is the opposite of a meet cute.
Yes.
It's a meet uncomfortable.
It's hate at first sight.
Meet hate.
I hope his fancy, important head shrinker mama enjoys this fucking foliage.
This is Anthony.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. Ciao. I wanted to make the place look its best for you.
I appreciate the effort. Now please set that down. It must be heavy for a man of your size.
So now we have a beautiful summer walk and talk with Carrie and Miranda, and we're coming into the idea that Carrie is aware how tense and what Charlotte was at the coffee shop, at the Hot Fellas, that she's very, very tense.
Now, two things I want to talk about with this scene. One was we knew back when we were talking about we wanted to have Carrie host this party for Charlotte. We also wanted to get into the fun of that sort of presumptuous. We know there's always the person who has the really nice house who always hosts the party, and that we wanted to have Miranda try to get in there a little. I have a new place I could host, and how Carrie sort of
delicately,
masterfully,
because she says, and this is where we start to get into the trouble. She says, "I just think it should be a really big party."
Right. Yes. It's like in her attempt to take back the reins of the party,
she also wants it to be big because she knows why Charlotte needs to have a party.
Of course.
And she says, I think she needs to have fun. And Miranda starts
sniffing.
She's
Matlocking the situation now. She's like, what are you saying? Why? It's not a big birthday. And there's a couple of times people have said in this episode.
Is it a big birthday?
Is it a big birthday? Meaning 60.
Yeah. But we knew to get to this insane lie, we had to earn it. Like, how do we believe?
The lie being it's not anyone in the family that's sick, it's the dog.
Right. The dog. So to buy that, and I was like, we're going to have to really believe that she was backed into such a corner that she comes up with this insane
By the way,
thing.
backed into a corner while walking down the street is tough.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of ways to not get backed into a corner.
But it helped that Miranda, who her spidey senses are tingling, and I sort of like that she thinks of herself as smart and clues into something's
perceptive.
Yes.
And then as soon as she stops her, then it was like, okay, I buy it.
She chases, is Charlotte okay? Is Charlotte sick? Which is a natural place to go to.
Especially at this age. You're like, someone is sick. Right.
And then she goes to the kids and Carrie's able to say, no, the kids are not sick. And then she literally says, is it Harry? Is Harry sick?
Right.
That is, let me see what's
in
your
your hands.
hands.
Do anything to get out of there. Yeah.
And if you look at it, Sarah Jessica's eyes actually dilate. Like they just go boop, boop. And then Miranda knows, oh my God, Harry's
sick. Right.
So Carrie has to quick comedy come up with what would be more upsetting to Charlotte.
Yeah. And it's such an unusual moment for especially these three, for two of them to have a secret
from the other.
Especially Carrie to have a secret from Miranda. I don't know if it's ever happened. And like, what do you do in that rare, 1 in a million moments?
But she does say that Mr. Burton has an incurable tumor. And she just can't stop herself.
Yeah, it just flows right out.
Miranda then realizes, oh yeah, she does need to have fun. Fun.
And then party doula Miranda is born.
Yes.
Doula.
Party doula. In theory, she immediately goes home and invites her girlfriend, Joy, to the party and says that Joy, of course, says, I'm not going. No. Until she says
the magic words.
The dog's dying. And then, of course, that's Joy's everything. And she says, oh, you buried the lead. Of course I'll come, etc. So the party doula is launched. Miranda now is imagining that she is fun. Yeah. She has to be fun.
Yeah.
And we pick up, speaking of fun, we pick up with Anthony calling Carrie. And he wants to debrief. What about Giuseppe's mother? How nasty she is.
Nasty.
You want to like bond with someone about that.
Yeah,
and
that's
get some
nasty.
validation.
Meanwhile, I want to point out he's calling on a landline bread phone.
You think something's in your head earlier, and then all of a sudden it's like, not only is it true, but it's like worse than that. She's bonding with Carrie and getting this lunch with her. So it's like he called thinking for reassurance, and it's actually it's a trap.
That is the worst kind of surprise is when you're calling to like gossip in a bitchy way, and the other person's like, oh, well, actually, I like her. It's like,
it's a
worse than
dagger.
being
It's a
shot.
dagger to the heart. Yeah.
And he does call out. He says, I thought she was kind of nice. Yeah, nice to you. Nice, nasty. Nice, nasty. Duck, goose, right? We find out that Gianna invited her to lunch. And he says, put in a word for me.
Yeah.
I love him. He loves me. She hates me. Just like, and Carrie's like, do you want me to pimp you out? And he says, you have to. This is how far he's going to go. And then we see this lovely scene of Sarah Jessica and Patti Lupone having this elegant lunch.
So this scene was the perfect place for us to discover that Carrie and Gia have the same issue, which is they both have stepkids. It was a way to keep alive the Aiden's family story, and it was a way for Carrie to get another window into that role.
And technically, from my point of view, it was a way of giving Patti a really nice scene to play with Sarah Jessica, but to show the other side of Gia, because we wanted to show this elegant, smart therapist in a non-comic attack moment, but like, I'm a real person, and we find out that she wanted to be an artist, and she went to Rome, and her whole backstory, she married this very much older man, which is, we don't know at this point why Gia has a problem with Anthony, but we will find out why in future episodes. But her own personal history is she married an older man. And Carrie then says, I don't know if I have the same problem with my potential stepchildren. She says, so you are the evil one too, or you were the... And then when they're there and they're bonding and they're connecting, she actually does mention, you should give Anthony a shot.
Right. And then it's after Gia has imparted some wisdom, elder wisdom, which is also something that happens with an older friend. You just be your authentic self. And that's the on-ramp for Carrie to be a really good friend to Anthony, which is nice.
Well, it's also like keeps because Aiden isn't in this episode, and they leave 6 after kind of this difficult reveal, but they're back together, and it just keeps that the thing about long distance relationships is that like the longer you're apart, like the little voices in your head start to grow a little bit, and it sets up the end fight with Miranda. It sets up some of the insecurities are like burbling around. It's not he's not off screen this entire time. It's like it's very much present, and part of her present day to day is thinking about Aiden and what that life would be,
And speaking of insecurities, we find a very sort of shaky Seema who is now insecure about her finances and deciding that she has to kind of cut back. She let go of her chauffeur. She still doesn't have an office. She doesn't know what she's going to do, but she realizes I can't be the same Seema who just drove around town and went to the best everything, the best salon, the best designer, the best restaurant. So she winds up going to Lattes and Lashes, which is in her neighborhood.
We don't recommend that place, guys.
And she gets the idea is she's going to economize in this.
But she's going to just go to the convenient place.
She gets in there and she sees an eyelash technician with basically
no skills. By the way, in case you haven't ever had your eyelashes done, I will just say that little white thing that he sticks down on her cheek, that should go right up against your under eyelid. That should be
Esthetician
touching.
Julie.
I did not. Dr. Julie.
Yeah, this is so not my area of expertise.
I mean, he's a classic New York character who thinks he's a diva and is all over the place.
Okay.
She goes to an eyelash person who then does a shitty job, and the next time you see her at Carrie's, we'll just come back to you, Lucas, in a second, they've molted and they're falling off, and it's a bad thing, and she has a little bit of an eye infection, a little dot, which when she walks into the kitchen to day drink with Carrie, there is Adam really dirty and sweaty and the opposite of who she thinks she should be with. But Carrie invites her to the birthday party and Adam says, I'm fun, I'll go too. And he comes over and says, you have something in your eye. And he's just washed his hands. We made very clear of that his eyes are, his hands are not the problem. And somebody said to me, why is she being so cold to him? And I was like, because she likes him and he has a girlfriend. So she's got to push him away. He has a yoga girlfriend, so she's got to pretend he's nothing to her.
He's the opposite of her type. So, she's fighting against everything. Yeah.
And she's doing her back and forth with him, and Carrie's just sitting there. looking at them and going, "What's that?"
What is going on?
And Seema says to Carrie, I'm already building a fake business. I don't need to also build a fake relationship. He has a girlfriend. So the eye infection gets worse, and she shows up at the party in an eye patch. Now that we've established there's a party, in walks, I don't know, Party Central, Miranda, the doula, what'd you call her? The Miranda
doula.
party. Right. And she comes in with everything fun she can think of. Lots of pink balloons, and Brady, poor Brady, pulling in a very large karaoke machine, which Carrie says, of course, Miranda thinks karaoke is fun. Now, everybody who's watching the show at this point is like, please don't do karaoke on this show. It's been done everywhere. And we're like, yeah, we know that. Watch what we do with it. It is Miranda's idea of fun is karaoke, because that's what the brand is that Carrie insisted that they have. Karaoke.
All the fun.
It is so crazy finding out what people think is fun. And it's also very stressful to be a person deciding what will be fun for other people. I feel for Miranda.
We're so used to seeing Miranda as this like down to business, workaholic, very serious person, and then her other mode is this.
I mean, she's wearing a silver jumpsuit at one shoulder. She's got pink balloons and a karaoke machine. And Carrie's like, okay, this is happening. And she decides I better warn Duncan. So she goes down to warn Duncan that it's going to be noisy. And when he opens the door, he's reading her chapter, and it stops her cold, terrified. And then he says, it's really good, which is thrilling.
Doesn't he say it's brilliant?
He says it's brilliant. And the first line, which
you
is...
fall in love with anyone who tells you you're right.
I mean,
absolutely.
And
game over.
And most important in the scene, he repeats the very first line of the first chapter, which is the woman wondered what she had gotten herself into, which is the very first line Carrie jotted down in episode 1 of this season when she was just trying to figure out her thoughts.
And also, he, as an outsider who doesn't know anything about her life, reads it and, is drawn in and keeps reading. Later, we're going to see for Miranda, it's very different information because she has the context of Carrie's life.
Yeah. So she says, I was going to give you a hotel room because there's going to be karaoke. And he says, I like karaoke.
Yeah, that was
says,
news to all of us.
Shocker.
Well, and then Lucas even wrote the line. What does he say?
That's what we call in the biz a plot twist.
Yeah, it is a plot twist.
The thing about even in episode 5, 2 episodes before, he's just crotchety and all these things, and then slowly, you get to see a fully formed Duncan, which is like the kind of fun of this episode, to see him warm and
But she does
loosen
say,
up a little bit.
If you come up to the party, we could talk some more or not about how good you think my book is. Cute. And then we go to the Rock Lily bedroom. And Lily is full on not getting out of bed. Breakup mode. As you said, Julie, taken to her bed. And Charlotte wants her to go, but won't push it. Would you push it as a mother?
Oh, my God. First of all, if you have a girl this age,
don't get me started.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I think Lucas wrote this perfectly because... I was, especially when I rewatched it, I was like, I think word for word, that's what would happen. I would push, and then I would say, okay, fine, and I would walk away. Like, it's exactly, at a certain point, you're not gonna...
You can't force your 16-year-old.
Yes.
Well, and that brings us to one of my favorite arcs is the heroic Rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I have loved Rock in every scene so far. They're always doing the best thing for the planet, for the neighbors, for their family. And the fact that Rock gets up and says, you're going.
This is the first time we're actually seeing one of the kids. Like, I have heard from people in the world, like, when are those kids going to be nicer to, Charlotte? And it's, like, really nice to see. This is probably the first time we're seeing one of the kids sticking up for a parent.
Also, it's really a thrill to watch siblings yell at each other.
Yeah.
Especially when one has the true higher ground. And she says to Lily, I saw Mom crying in the pantry. Something's really wrong. Get out of the bed, fucking Ariel.
Right.
That's after the ironic...
Right, the run of parties.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the production obstacles, fun, and nightmare of having 100 people in a room for many, many days.
Okay, Sam, this is I will say, one stretch of time that you were doubly glad you weren't in New York and on set, because we were probably at that party
I think we
for
shot
about 10 days in a row.
It was
That's longer, I feel like, yeah.
It felt like
all
that.
of them in the same outfits. The food had to be reset, like the
background.
flowers.
Let's talk technically about what usually happens on the show. What usually happens is actors come in and do their scenes. All the time is so specifically budgeted to keep going. But it's usually, okay, Carrie and Miranda in the kitchen. You know what that is. And then Charlotte's not there. She's home in L.A. Kristen's home in L.A. with her kids. And then this one is then Miranda's doing something over there. Cynthia's not there. Oh, she is there.
She's on the Gilded Age.
The amazing...
Doing her thing.
She's in the
Cynthia's
1800s,
pulling
yeah.
on a wig over there in 1800. But the reality is it's a scheduling nightmare, because in essence, what you have are all the stars of the show, ideally in the background of everybody else's shot since they're at the party. It's a very big ask for production, and it's a very big ask for the actors.
Yeah.
Anu said she walked through that house for a month straight, just figuring out placement of each character and where to place it just for logistics. So it was really impressive.
How to minimalize them and get the maximal effort out of that, because the reason we did this episode was for the party. We wanted a fun, crazy, it's called a block comedy scene, when you're doing something that just keeps building comically over and over and over again. And we wanted a big block scene. They're really hard to write, but really fun to write and really difficult to film, because the director has to have the tone. Everybody has to be in the same tone. In reality, props are changing the food on the table because it's going bad. Like the mayonnaise is going bad.
Balloons are being replaced.
And flowers are dying.
Flowers are dying. Wills to live are dying.
By the way, all the flowers on the show that you ever see are real flowers.
Yeah. So when we got the idea of the party, it was a big thing. And I'm happy to say it looks breezy, effortless, and like a party rather than a prison sentence.
Right.
It's really fun.
God.
But it starts with the idea of Miranda taking a picture of the soon-to-be-departed dog and Charlotte, the dog's mom.
Wondering why Miranda was so insistent.
Yeah, Charlotte
that the
has
dog
no idea why Miranda has to get the dog to look directly at the camera, because it's the last picture she'll ever have.
Can we jump back to Charlotte discovering the horror of betrayal of Harry and Bonnie at Bergdorf?
I forgot. I like to block it.
Yeah.
I don't like betrayal storylines.
Yeah.
Right. Harry has told her, do not tell anyone, which is why she's overloading in every episode.
And melting down.
And she goes to
We love the idea
Bergdorf's.
that this betrayal, that he has this secret, this relationship with Bonnie at Bergdorf's, and that Charlotte would stumble into it, and as if she doesn't have enough on her plate.
Well,
I
she
believe,
says to them,
doesn't she say, to be clear?
No, she says, I can't
take any more bad news.
I can't take any more bad news, because
they
it
both
looks
look
like
so
an affair.
guilty.
It's a clandestine affair.
I didn't want you to meet like this.
Yes.
Harry.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I did not want you two to ever meet.
Oh, Harry, do you want to tell her, or should I?
Tell me what, and bear in mind, I cannot hear any more bad news.
Anyway, so back to the party. Everybody starts arriving for the party, and this is the first moment that we meet. Carrie meets Joy. The door opens up, and there they are. We've been waiting to introduce them, and Joy's very breezy and very verbal, and Carrie says, I like her. She has a great vocabulary. And then Miranda takes her in to meet Charlotte, who's wearing a little paper birthday crown. And it's so funny because Dolly's line is, what a charming little hat. And Kristen says, shouldn't she say crown? And I looked at Dolly, and Dolly said, no, hat, it's worse. What a charming little hat from the cold grit. Hat.
Yeah.
It's much worse. And then she sees the dog and goes apeshit. Like, why?
Like, that's the guest of honor,
Yeah,
really.
because she knows the backstory that nobody knows she knows, which is the dog is dying. And every time Harry tries to get in the spotlight of a family photo, Miranda says, get out, it's about the dog. Then he steps in to meet Joy, and Joy goes down to the dog. And he's like, I don't even know if I'm here.
Right.
And the door opens up, and here comes LTW and Herbert and Henry. And what we discover is that Henry has a proclivity to karaoke.
Yeah. He knows the model of the machine that she has in the house.
And we felt really excited about this because we know
Alex Bello.
Yeah,
the fabulous.
Because we know Alex Bello is
Who
a singer,
plays-
and he has been on Broadway. He played MJ in Broadway. He played Michael Jackson in Young Michael Jackson on Broadway. So it was fun, and they were excited too because when we called him and his mother and said, "What kind of songs do you like?" and they gave me a list of songs, and I have to tell you, they were all very Henry songs.
Right.
There was no hip hop.
No pop music.
It was all standards and show tunes,
Yeah.
and it was like, whoa, we're right on the right track. But the minute his mother looks at his father and says, "Oh, look, there's karaoke," and you just see them both.
They know.
Glaze
They know
over.
what's coming. Yeah.
And then we see what's
This is not
coming.
the first time.
Which is such a delight. We realized that he was going to sing "I Had a, I Dreamed a
Had a
Dream
dream,
from
yeah,
Les
Dream a
Mis."
Dream,
I mean,
yeah.
come
Just
on.
to show a new color.
Yes,
of
we didn't.
This
We
character.
haven't really known him very well.
No,
so.
but it's the idea of a 13-year-old singing "My Life Is Over."
right.
That
And Lily
re-
relating so
and Lily
hard.
relating
Yes.
because her life is over. And then you cut to the bar and you see the Gallerinas are there, and they're like, and Bonnie, who plays Leela, is like, "Girl, he does not want my life." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And Brady says he's either 15 or 50. I don't know. He couldn't even
Right.
decide.
Yeah.
15.
For Miranda, it's like Fuel of Fire because she's so obsessed with the party being fun, and it's clearly failing at that point in terms of like.
Well, it's not.
It's not what she
it's not
has
failing
in
in terms of
mind.
it's not what she
As,
had in mind.
as she
Yeah.
says, we have a lot of non-French Revolutionary themed
Yes.
songs up
Oh
here.
my God. I've never related her to Miranda. Her watching Alex sing, and she's just sort of waiting and just biting her tongue, and you can see she's in hell.
Because she's DJ Desperate Fun.
Yes.
She's
Yeah, yeah,
got
yeah.
to make
She has
it
an
fun.
idea. She has a very clear idea in her head
It's a
of
mission.
what that karaoke
And
is
her,
going to
her
be.
goal is to make Charlotte have fun. And if she has to monster truck over this kid, she will.
Yeah, and she's
And she
brought the
winds up
party to a
actually monster trucking over him.
standstill.
But it basically, everybody feels freaked out that this is not the idea of fun. And then when it's time, Miranda tries to take over. There's really, Cynthia as a DJ is beyond delightful.
She commits.
She
She
at the
fully
table
commits.
read. Do you remember at the
Yes.
table
No,
read? We were
yes, absolutely,
screaming,
yeah.
laughing because she really goes there.
It's
and
just
we
a
were,
new side of her.
We were just like,
Yeah.
oh, please, God, let it be as funny as it was at the table. And it is because
It's even
she's,
funnier because
she's
she's
up
in the
her body.
spacesuit.
She's
Yeah.
in a spacesuit. And
She has a lot of movement. to
She's
it.
got like
She's got the moves.
She's having some fun moves.
She's committing.
And you know, you cut around, you see Carrie and Charlotte, and it's just like
There's a lot of-
nobody.
yeah, the
It's
reaction
not
shots.
working. And Miranda says, okay, she says, let's do it. Let's just put on Back in the Day. And it just gets cringier. Girls just want to have fun. And nobody wants to join in. And Carrie's like, please, is she looking over here? And then Carrie doesn't want to join.
Right.
Charlotte doesn't want to
Or
join.
it's like, I have to.
Finally,
host.
Lily doesn't want to join and screams at Aunt Miranda.
not.
They just want to be left alone. And Cynthia just goes, okay. And then, desperate to have fun, she somehow makes a big swing that it's going to be about opening gifts.
Oh my
Because
God.
girls like to open gifts. And then you cut to the three broke-ass Gallerinas, probably having struggling rent problems, out there saying, I didn't bring a gift. And Kai says, I don't bring gifts to people who own in New York.
I love. And we all know any adult party where there is a gift opening moment is hell.
Yeah.
Like
Just
hell.
desperate,
I'll
yeah.
never. I can't erase those like early bridal shower, baby shower things.
But then in the middle of the Gallerinas worrying about gifts, they realize that Anastasia brought a candle, and Kai says, put my
God.
name
the
on it.
panic,
it.
The
A
panic of a
re-gift.
re-gift.
And
is
then
very
she-
relatable.
We
and-
can't put three names on a re. I love that line on a
and
re-gifted.
Leela goes, or can we? Nodding her head, and the door opens, and here comes Pirate Jack Sparrow. Here comes Pirates of Park Avenue, Seema coming in with the Louis Vuitton eye patch because because, as in the Lucas story, she had to keep her eye covered. Louis Vuitton does not make eye patches. Just so if
If
you
you're
have,
looking for
so
one.
if you
won't
if you
find
want
it.
a Louis Vuitton, it doesn't happen. We had to go through hoops and valleys and ladders
And legal
and legal
consultation.
to get the
Oh my
LV on
God.
because they don't make it, but because it is made from a fanny pack that they do make.
That she says, right?
And they allowed it.
They allowed it. But it's the LV that we wanted. And Carrie says, what's going on there? And the idea is that Seema says, what do I care? There's people here doing karaoke. I don't care about this.
Right. And she thinks at that point, the guy...
He has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam shows up and busts her balls and says,
Yeah.
"Ahoy, matey," and they're really funny together. And she just realizes, what do I care?
She's
There's
herself.
nothing at
So
risk for
cute
her.
together.
Nothing. Then so we now see Carrie's in the kitchen and she's talking to the caterer about maybe bring more champagne. And as she closes the refrigerator door to get the cake, she sees that Duncan has actually taken up her offer to come up. And he says, karaoke carries right down, show tunes carry right down through the floorboards. So then we drop into this crazy, as Carrie says, mashup of a wedding shower, birthday party. She has no idea what's going on. Her and Duncan are watching. Charlotte and a group of people open gifts, and Bitsy's giving her a completely over-the-top Fendi
Handbag.
purse and says, I didn't know if it was a big birthday or not.
Right.
Because everybody has so much work done. And Bitsy says the great joke. I know a woman who's had so much work done. Her face looks 50, but she's 80. Her face looks 50, but she has to wear a turtleneck swimsuit in the pool.
I love that line.
The idea is Miranda's running around as an MC and trying to keep the gifts moving. And the next gift she gives her is the one from Joy. And Miranda says, that's nice. You didn't have to do that. What is it? And she says, see, dog treats for a dying dog. And you're not supposed to know that.
Like, oh my God, did you maybe want to mention that?
And then the great.
Then we see the galloping trip of like the gazelle who falls the first time we've ever seen
Has to
Joy.
climb over.
Yeah. And then it goes on to the candle, and Leela says, my gift, because she's not on the card, will be a song. And because we had Bonnie Milligan, who is a Tony Award-winning Broadway singer, we knew that she could blow the room apart. And on that big high note, we cut away to Miranda and Harry, and Miranda's saying to Harry, don't worry, when the inevitable happens. Meanwhile, she's saying this to someone with cancer. When the inevitable happens, it'll be sad, but we'll be there for her. And his reaction is insane. And then he goes up to Charlotte and says, did you tell Miranda? Because I told Bonnie. And she says, no. And then Charlotte goes to Carrie and says, can I talk to you? Did you tell Harry, Miranda? No, I said that the dog had a tumor, an incurable tumor, and she goes, that's almost worse.
And Carrie's reaction to that
Carrie almost looks directly into the camera like, what? That's almost worse?
Such a good cut.
But Harry realizes at that point, then she tells Harry that everybody thinks it's because she isn't allowed to say anything. So he bundles them all into the kitchen, her three good friends, LTW, Charlotte, and Carrie.
And we knew this secret could only go so long, and we wanted to give Harry the higher road of seeing how terribly it was weighing on his beloved wife and give her this gift of sharing the news.
And, you know, when you're doing a party like this, you want to have moments, but you need something to connect it so you feel that the party's still going on through all the other rooms. And when the two devices we used is you hear all the ladies opening gifts and you cut away to that and you see Gianna and Anthony having a conversation because she's taking Carrie's advice that maybe Anthony is different.
I want to just say something about the writing process of an episode like this versus a traditional and just like that episode. This to me, and everybody's different, but this to me is a very advanced level writing assignment, because typically what you do is you kind of figure out every individual character's story. You can break them out in nice, neat blocks and then, you know, figure out how
Different
the collage
columns.
works. But this is very different when you have everybody's storylines colliding at one big event, essentially. We have very few setup scenes and then this giant block scene.
Right.
It's one thing, it's a puzzle to figure out how to direct it, but even to write it as I'm going back in time and trying to remember how we broke it.
How we had to build it.
It's really, really tricky. It is tricky.
Comedy demands a very different thought than drama. You can do a bunch of drama scenes. Comedy, they have to flow into each other. It's almost like you have a deck of cards. You have to shuffle them and then make sure they all go together correctly. And the connective tissue is Gianna and Anthony. And she basically says, so let me talk about your business. Your business is sex. You're selling sex. And he says, I'm selling bread. And she says, sex. And he just keeps getting more and more nervous. And you start to see she's locating him almost as a sexual being rather than a love story. She's labeling him as you want my son because of sex. Because the other person at the party that sort of saw her son as a piece of meat was Bitsy when she sees Gianni for the first time and she's like, and then you see on Gianna's face, and then the other connective tissue of this last part of the party is Bitsy has picked a duet, which is Lady Gaga's Shallow. And she's picked Giuseppe, who is the nicest man in the world, who would never say no to sing.
He's in hell.
And in this comic scene of Bitsy, literally, I'm off the deep end, like literally throwing her, Julie Halston. We would only do it if we knew Julie was doing it.
And let's not forget, her first husband was a gay man.
That's right.
She knows she's trying to win him over.
That's true. She sees a path.
She's like,
there.
this is my type.
I've done it before. I can do it again. But while they're singing, the important moment is that we start to understand what Gia's problem is with Anthony. And she comes up and says, I think this is, what's the word when you see Bitsy and Giuseppe dancing? What is the word? Tragic. When an older man, someone older lusts after someone younger. What do you think? He says, you don't want to know what I think. Gia, it's the first time we've seen Anthony go like, gloves are off. I'm calling you Gia no matter what. And in this number, you also see Carrie laughing about, because Duncan says, I've changed my mind about karaoke. And she laughs and she sips his scotch. We've also seen her sip his scotch earlier on the terrace when they were out having a conversation where he was telling her how special her book was.
Which we all decided is a very intimate thing to do.
To sip someone's drink?
From someone's drink.
Oh,
But she's also very much like loving what he's saying about her book the first time.
It's an aphrodisiac.
And he basically says to her at the end of the scene, the woman is very much alive, and she sips his drink.
If you watch carefully, it's a very quick moment, but Miranda clocks that sip.
And smiles. Miranda thinks like, wow, look what's happening back there.
That's fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And while the end of Shallow is happening, you cut to the staircase, which is, Anu staged this on the staircase. There's something about being at a party and sitting on stairs talking to somebody that is so sexy. And Adam's sitting below her, and he makes her laugh by doing a story about pedicabs, and she snorts. And he says, wow, a snort? You're really a catch.
And an eye patch.
And an eye patch. You're really a catch. And she says, I bet your girlfriend doesn't snort. Your yoga girl. And he says, I got rid of her. Oh, that ended when I smelled your perfume the first time.
And I remember when that was pitched in the room. And we all kind of went, oh, I love that. What's more romantic than that?
And also, if you think about it, I think she intentionally mentioned the girlfriend.
She was feeling it.
Float.
It's also the playful dynamic where they're just kind of barbing each other, and then all of a sudden it's when she's barbing thinking they're buds.
Right.
It's like it changes the dynamic very quickly where suddenly.
I think she wanted to know too.
And you see the look on Sarita's face when he says, when I smelled your perfume the first time. She is totally taken aback and has no words for the first time and decides to just get out of there saying, I'll go get us some fresh drinks. The way she walks away, it's like she's walking on her legs, like she's afraid she's going to fall down. She's just walking very oddly to get out of there. And then he looks at his drink and it's completely full. He looks at his drink and it's completely full, so you know that he knows what she just said is full of shit.
And this is also a thing we talked about to really get to know Seema better than we've known her before, because I think what we arrived at is she's been dating all her life with one mode, which is I am now in a dating situation and I'm this person. So we wanted to really throw her this totally unexpected guy who she dismissed right away, make him unavailable. So even if he is kind of sexy, he's unavailable. And like really see who she is when she's not trying to date.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I have personally heard a lot of stories about people who have gotten together like that, where it's not even just we began as friends, but dating was the furthest thing from my mind, and I was my most real self.
Yes.
And that's what we were
the
chasing.
Point. We wanted Seema to not be performative as a lady in a couple, but he could see her and then she sees him. And so she's escaping now because she realizes she's actually stepping back into her old self.
Yeah.
I've got to date this guy and I have an eye patch, so I got to get out of here.
This isn't what I
got to get out of here. And maybe he's drunk enough. Like now I want it, so I have to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And this is where we do use karaoke as a plot point. He realizes that she knows that he likes her, and instead of letting her get away, he goes at it with comedy by singing Betty Davis's Eyes.
Yeah.
But he says the most beautiful eye I've ever seen. And then there's this kind of...
that was another Lucas inspiration.
Yeah,
that
the most
song.
beautiful eye I've ever seen.
I thought Seema deserved like a grand romantic gesture from this unexpected thing.
You also said that sexy kind of straight guy, Mick Jagger-y kind of swag, kind of energy is what you wanted. And Adam gives us that. I mean, Logan does a really amazing job. And if you think about it, go back to the very first time we met him, he said, I had a band. So it's not like suddenly this gardener can hold the room because he is really holding the room. And it's fun to watch Miranda singing along. LTW is looking back, and it starts to become this group focus
like
of those two.
The whole room kind of stops.
Her, Seema, the way she's watching him, I felt like we saw an enjoyment, and her laughter was something we've never seen on Seema.
Yeah.
And I
he's
felt like
so kind
he
of
disarmed her.
fun,
Goofy,
fun, sexy, and it cuts right into the Kim Carnes version of the song and the very beautifully shot scene by Anu of that city that feels like episode 2 of Sex and the City. You see the street and the cab.
Yeah, it's so vintage, right?
And they're making out in the cab, and she says, maybe a taxi can be sexy. And that music, that actual song just rings out over one of my favorite scenes of all time, Carrie and Miranda in the kitchen.
I've just been waiting the entire podcast to talk about this scene. Can we talk about it for another hour? This scene, for me, and I have my friend Elisa here as a witness, to me, what was most electric and scary, but what made it my favorite scene is when you know someone so well and you suddenly realize you've touched a nerve, and that moment where Miranda is like, what's happening? Like, almost like time out.
She tripped an alarm.
Yes.
You stepped on a mine.
And she plays it so like almost like fun and frothy and like eating the cake. There's something that Cynthia brought to that was really...
You're right, Lucas. The fact that she was being light and funny, but then it's like, come on, Miranda's not stupid. And I felt Carrie sort of calls her on that.
Aiden and I are over 20 years in, and it's complicated right now. So yes, maybe I laughed and had a sip of scotch. I am allowed to laugh and sip scotch.
Of course you are. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's not what you're saying. What are you really saying?
Nothing. Just... The woman wondered what she had gotten herself into. It's in your book.
Well, I know it's in my book. How do you know it's in my book?
We've written a lot of Carrie and Miranda scenes. The idea...
Arguments.
Yeah. And standoffs, I'd say. And the reality of what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a level of performance from Sarah Jessica as Carrie that I've never seen. Like new colors, a kind of a big arrogance, and a misplaced accusatory tone that is that says something's happening inside. All the while, she's
wiping
crumbing
the counter,
the cake counter. It's a really interesting
Delicate.
scene.
It's so, I remember for weeks and probably months, whenever we talked about episode 7, we would say, oh, and then Carrie and Miranda, they have a fight. And we knew that they're going to have a fight, and we're a little bit vague. We know the general area of what they're going to be having a quote unquote fight about. As we get closer and closer to sending Lucas off to writing it, and we get really serious about, like, how is he going to write it? What is that fight? And is it an actual fight, or is it one of those, oops, I tripped an alarm and I know my friend so well and
I'm going to retreat.
And then
maybe
for
not.
Carrie, I am so known by this person that's uncomfortable.
Hide. Yes.
And so we wanted it to be this, like, this delicate, soufflé of a fight.
And there's a built-in contrast because she's talking about joy in her being so effortless. And Carrie's like, I'm 20 years in and it's complicated.
She knows.
And just at the moment, you think like, okay, they both said their thing. Miranda becomes truly Miranda and truly the best friend because Carrie has said, I know what I'm doing. And Miranda says the woman wondered what she had gotten herself into. And Carrie's blood runs cold.
And right, that's such a it's like I see you.
But she, as a non-writer, might not actually even realize that was going to be like an atomic bomb going off.
Oh, right. I think she says the woman wondered what she'd not. She's saying you don't know what you're doing.
But I'm just saying, like, to anticipate, like, you read that?
Oh,
oh, God.
It feels like
very well done, Lucas.
She thought as a lawyer it was her closing argument, and instead it became a whole new trial, which is like, that's not me.
How did you read that?
Yeah, and she says, oh, so you're not confused anymore. And I don't know, does Carrie even enter? I don't know.
Yeah, and then it becomes like this whole, I just love there were so many iterations that we all did of this, and that, but like the delicate dance of like, how is it going to leave with them being like in a fight, like a big fight, or
really
to resolve it? And
that.
it was like, it really, like, I'm so glad it ended the way it did of like, no, we're going to patch this up. We said that, and it's nice that Brady's there, and they are family, and she gives it like flowers.
Yeah, they say, we're good. Brady says, you're done. Yeah, we're done. Where do you want to go? And they have a laugh about Henry, and then they leave. And as
they say, love you.
Yeah, Carrie says,
and
here
she's keeping the karaoke machine too.
Yeah, and she says, I'm keeping the karaoke machine for my next party.
Which is also a gesture of like, I thank you. Like,
and we're going to
have
more fun. We're going to have more
Yeah.
fun. And as they leave, you see Carrie from outside in the window, looking alone in that kitchen where she had been standing on the terrace with Duncan, and now she's just turns away to go to the sink, and then we see her in this. There's nothing more romantic than a post-party space that's empty, and the chairs are all there, but there's no guests.
And she's alone again.
And she's alone, and she picks up her cat, and this is the surprise. Lucas, what happens?
She's sitting there and she's like, kind of self-talking and self-soothing after this fight. And it's kind of this beautiful, but she's like, almost like blocking out or thinking it's going to be, and there's just that balloon pop. And it was one of those things of a moment of like, oh no, nothing is, you're telling yourself everything's gonna be okay, but is it? And it just kind of, it felt to me like more of a question mark, but it's also this kind of poetic pause and a pop. It was trying to do it could be left for interpretation too.
And the fragility.
I like that.
Well, it pops
of her,
which sort of pops the idea, but it sparkles.
Yeah,
it sparkles as well. So it's like it gives you the like shock, and that's also like, oh, everything is fine. It's pretty. So it kind of a glass half full or glass. Yeah.
How did that come to you?
Yeah, I think it was like ending with a fight. Felt like just her looking out the window, which by the way would have been I love that last shot of her looking out the window, but there was something of just seeing her by herself, and she's it's, we see her writing so often, but it's a writing moment, but the way that writing comes to us oftentimes is just sitting alone or thinking about something. And so it was a way to like have an introspective moment be externalized.
Yeah.
The very last thing she says is everything's going to be all right. And the voiceover says the woman held on to what she knew to be true. And what she knows to be true at this moment is that she is together with Aiden and everything will work out. And
Everything's
that's
okay.
the thought
Yes.
that gets popped. Not
Right.
that's the thought
Right.
that gets
Right.
popped.
Yes.
What's true is my feelings about Aiden, and then pop. Glitter. And just like that, we've reached the end of episode 7 of season 3. They want to have fun. We had a lot of fun talking about it. Thanks so much to Julie, Elisa, Samantha, and Lucas for joining. We'll be back next week to unpack episode 8, Happily Ever After. And as ever, you can stream new episodes of In Just Like That Thursdays on Max. And just like that, The Writer's Room is produced by Sony Music Podcasts for Max. At Sony, Sharon Morris is the executive producer, Gianna Palmer is the lead producer, Sammy Allison is head of production. Tamika Balance-Kalasny is our production manager, and Sam Baer is our engineer. Special thanks to Becky Rowe, Allison Cohen-Sorokoch, Kenya Reyes, and Aaron Kelly from the Max Podcast team. Thank you for listening.